Good evening. I'm going to call this Tuesday, September 16th, City Council meeting to order. If you can join me in standing, the mayor is going to lead us in prayer and the pledge.
Thank you all for coming. Please bow with me. Heavenly Father, we once again are thankful for the community we live in, we work in, and we play. We're thankful for the city that we are and everybody that contributes to making it one of the greatest places on earth. We gather tonight to serve our city with the privilege of self-governance. We ask your blessing on this council that their discussions and decisions be marked by wisdom and fairness. In a time when our nation yearns for civility and unity, help us to model patience, respect, and understanding. May our words build bridges, not walls, and may our actions reflect the responsibility we each carry as citizens. We also give thanks for the dedicated staff who serve us tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure that our city runs smoothly. Bless them for their diligence and their commitment to common good. Grant us all the courage to listen with open hearts, to speak with kindness, and to seek peace that strengthens both our city and our country. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Kathy, could you call the roll, please?
Here.
Bishop.
Here.
Carlisle.
Here.
Andrews.
Here.
Colchester.
Here.
Stewart.
Here. All right, before we begin tonight, if anyone has anything they'd like to speak about that is not an agenda item, if you could fill out one of those forms and hand it to Clerk Haley. If you're speaking about an item that is on the agenda, you do not need to fill out a form. We'll get to public comment later on in the meeting. Mayor's report.
I've got a book, so thank God you all are here early. Couple things we want to go. And first, I'd like to welcome back Terry Mendel, was our council person. Tom Detman was our council person. And Scott Stanley up here also. So the most liberal councilman we ever had. Maybe. He was pretty good. I've got several things I'd like to just announce, and some things that happened just recently is a thank you to Carl Cool and Rotary for the lake cleanup. Did a great job. Had, I think, 70 people turn out, something like that. Yeah, didn't get a full count, but they did a good job and had a lot of stuff. You hate to see how much they pulled out, but they helped clean up around the lake. We had their Rotary also for, if you've been by the bathrooms, they're starting to go vertical now instead of just horizontal. So thank you, Mr. Stewart, for your Chairman Stewart, for your due diligence in pushing that thing forward. On 9/11, we had, thank you to the fire department that recognized a tragedy that happened several years ago. And they and the county fire system had a memorial walk, I should say a climb that they did. They all came out in bunker gear with air tanks, went down to Fireman's Field and climbed up the stairs at the stands for 17 minutes to honor those individuals that lives were taken, and the first responders who ran in there to help and were also taken. So thank you to the fire department for your honor and dignity for what you guys did. It was just a great job. Just a few things coming up. On October 1st is our legislative delegation. Representative Kaylee Tuck and Senator Aaron Grawl will be here listening to the communities, some of the wants and needs and what's going on. So we're going to welcome them, and you all can go down to the County Commission building and meet with them on the 1st. On the 4th, we have a celebration downtown, like the Circle Pink. It's a breast cancer awareness put on by Naughty Girl and Diana Albritton. They'll turn all the lights on the Circle Pink and have a lot of food vendors and all sorts of other activities. So, more than welcome to come down there. And then the first ever, and I don't know if it's the first ever, but it's the first since I've been here, on October 11th, is a Hispanic Heritage Festival. That'll be held on South Commerce Street. So that's on the 11th, so a few events. We also want to honor our, it's going to take me a minute here. Oops, it won't accept my face, so. I don't, most of you have heard that this weekend we had an accident on Lake Jackson We had a boat that capsized right off of Gulfview Road about 4:43 p.m. Our fire department and the police department responded. 6 occupants were in the water, I believe 3 adults and 3 children, if I'm not mistaken, Chief Hoagland. They were all rescued and brought back safely to the boat ramp. FWC and Fish and Wildlife are taking command of the scene and did investigate the boat. But I'd like to thank the police department. We had Corporal Del Rio, Officer Rattery, Officer Knapp, and Officer Soto. The Sebring Fire Department, Captain Piper, Lieutenant Rivera, Senior Engineer Al Britton, Firefighter Cruz, Firefighter Basovic, and Firefighter Ananton, Sid. Our boat was taken into the lake, and they've got a great response time. So if you don't think we need local representation, local first responders, this is why we have it, and that's why we're proud of what both our first responders, police and our fire department do. So if you give them a big round of applause. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So, and that looks like all I have. Sorry.
All right. Council members' reports. Mr. Carlisle. Okay, Ms. Klobuchar.
Yes, so I attended the zoning board meeting, which, for those of you that don't realize, zoning has had a lot of meetings lately. When I was on zoning, I think in 3 years, we met 5 times, and now they're just constant. So a lot of appreciation for those on the zoning board that have been making some decisions that later come to city. And then I also attended the CRA meeting, and again, lots of great things are happening with CRA. So I encourage you to take part in that as well.
Mr. Bishop.
Just one. Yesterday I went by the substation, the fire station on the highway, and the remodel is essentially done, and it's very nice, modernized. It's going to be a big improvement for the people who are stationed there. So that's it.
All right. Mr. Avery.
Just a shout out to Macaritos. They just opened up, so if you haven't had a chance to go by there, encourage you to. It's unbelievably good food. Happy to see them open.
I just want to echo the mayor's comments about the lake cleanup day. It was a tremendous turnout. We took out an immense amount of garbage, more than you'd expect. And it was great to see so many people show up to do that. All right, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Are there any questions or comments from council?
I have a motion I'd like to put forward. Sorry, Leonard. I move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of items 8C1 and 8G to be tabled for our October 21st meeting. I think those 2 items warrant a little bit of conversation amongst council. Yes, 8C1 and 8G. Item 8C, number 1, and item 8G.
Oh, 8C, number 1. I'm
Correct.
sorry. Okay. 8G. Okay, I'm sorry.
For our October 21st meeting.
Okay. We have a motion, and do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Kathy, could you call the roll, please?
Bishop,
Yes.
Carlisle,
Yes.
Avery,
Yes.
Klobuchar,
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes. All right, we're going to move on to item number 9A, which is the municipal golf course lease. Before we begin, this is a full house tonight. I imagine most of you are here for this item. When we get to the public comment portion, let's try and make sure that we're doing things in a reasonable amount of time. If you're going to echo something that's been said a lot of times, you don't have to. It's your right to do so if you would like, but let's try and get the point across and not be here till midnight tonight. Mr. Blackman, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor Shoup and City Council for the time to speak tonight. Thank you to City Administrator Natelick and Attorney Swain and city staff for their diligent efforts thus far in working with us. And also a sincere thank you to golf course head Fred Tucker and his staff for their hard work to improve the golf course under adverse circumstances. I'm appearing on behalf of the historic Harder Hall Hotel LLC, of which I'm the majority owner. The other owners are my parents and sister. I come today to request approval of our lease of the city-owned golf course. The table set, for over 3 years, I privately expressed our need to acquire the course. For years, we have told any civic group who has asked me to speak It's been no secret. I've spoken at dozens of local events. I've never turned down an invite. It marks 6 months ago this week, in March of this year, that I came before this council with the same request. At that time, the body requested more time and more public input. In May of this year, 4 months ago, a workshop was held at the Civic Center. Over 200 citizens showed up and expressed their feelings. Multiple times this year, every member of City Council has been offered one-on-one meetings to discuss their feelings about the lease and to help with their concerns. Out of these meetings came different individual requests and amendments. To that end, we've made major changes to the lease at the request of council members. We have pushed the commencement date to 2027, back from the original 2025. We have agreed that we must have the hotel complete and open within 5 years of the commencement date, or the course automatically reverts to the city. We agreed not to pursue a parcel adjacent to one of the areas of greatest flood concern, even though we believed it critical. And we even acquiesced to a request to give the Caddyshack restaurant tenants an additional 3 years of lease at a price and terms not to be dictated by us, but rather city administration and city council. These changes are in addition to the stipulations previously attached, such as minimum investment thresholds, periodic review of maintenance standards, and city approval for substantive changes to the course. After all these concessions, we believe we are ready to finalize the lease. That is why we felt blindsided by the September 2nd City Council meeting, where Chair Stewart requested an RFP be issued for the golf course. This was alarming and unexpected for a number of reasons. First, it wasn't on the agenda, or we would have been here. Secondly, it was procedurally incorrect, with no formal vote taken. We have been repeatedly, publicly told that the only reason a disposition of the golf course was even being considered was due to our efforts at Harder Hall. To that end, there was a stipulation insisted on by the city in the contract presented to us that ownership in the hotel was mandatory for the continued management of the golf course. If a public RFP is done, it is an impossibility that any of the other submissions would have ownership. Why are we being penalized for our good deeds and our blind faith multi-million-dollar investment in this city? I must again bring up that every owner in the history of the hotel but us was granted massive concessions to entice the renovation of the structure. 2 owners ago, the hotel was purchased and gifted to the owner to incentivize renovation. The person we bought the hotel from was offered over $40 million in municipal bonds as a mechanism to fund it. Even the purchaser of the hotel in the early 90s was refunded their purchase price dollar for dollar after an equal investment in the hotel was made. We have spent more money, time, and effort to fix up Harder Hall than any owner in history. And we have had a steeper hill to climb. It was front page news that the former owner was collecting bids to demolish the structure. It has been closed now for 39 years. To put that into perspective, that is longer than I and over half of the seated city council have been alive. Yet we have persevered. We continue to spend millions here, millions there. 500 hurricane impact windows are being installed daily. Our architectural team matched the original grid and pane pattern that specifically is consulting with the federal government on the depths of the window frames. We have to fill each surround with concrete for stability and anchoring, whereas previous owners incorrectly used caulk and drywall screws. We spent 7 figures on pouring a new foundation to stop settlement. We have retrussed the entire colonnade walkway. We have commissioned 7 figures in new grand doors and all new hurricane French doors as well. To that end, we feel we are being treated unfairly. Why have we been offered no incentives when so many others have? Not just previous hotel owners of Harder Hall, but also the owners of the Santa Rosa Hotel in an effort championed by Councilmember Carlisle, or the ownership of the Kenilworth Hotel, who have been offered hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash incentives. Ultimately, none of those owners followed through with their plans and promises. We have, even though we owe no one any answers or responsibility. Furthermore, Councilmember Carlisle told the Highlands News Sun to quote, "The first time I ran for city council 9 years ago, my #1 project was to see Harder Hall back on the tax rolls and see it become alive again." We did put it back on the tax rolls, paying over $150,000 in back taxes upon our purchase. We've continued to invest in a project slated for certain demolition, if not for our intervention, despite receiving absolutely no assistance. What has changed? What have we done that we are being treated less than others, despite showing much more investment and loyalty than any other renovation in town history? Myself and my family vehemently oppose the public RFP process. There are multiple reasons for that. The first is the inherent imbalance I mentioned previously. No other submission will have the community value we have and have been mandated to maintain, as we are the sole owners of the hotel. Again, that was said by council to be the only reason for this process to be considered in the first place. Secondly, it has been incorrectly stated that we are getting a free golf course. Let's look at the facts. The land for it was originally given to the city, bought for free by the owners of the Harder Hall Hotel to create a hotel amenity. The clubhouse was constructed and paid for by the ownership group. Contrary to the misbelief of some, the golf course has little or no inherent value now, and any potential respondents to an RFP may decide that upon investigation it is foolhardy to go forward. It is not currently profitable. The course just south of the hotel was divided and sold because it was also a financial loser. It cannot be redeveloped for any use other than recreational due to deed restrictions on the land. The course south of the hotel can and is being redeveloped as units of housing with no deed restrictions. The course today loses hundreds of thousands of dollars annually without fail. How do any other submitters plan to fix that issue? Certainly they cannot or would not under the terms we have been mandated to maintain. Keeping current staff, honoring Sebring Golf Association memberships. They would make extensive changes to cut corners, leaving the public to suffer while they profit. Additionally, how do we vet these individuals? We will not abide by others attempting a free ride off of our massive investment in the hotel. Lastly, we have no faith in the city's current RFP processes and procedures. I'll remind this council that over 2.5 years ago, in 2023, we jointly submitted a plan with Scott McDonald of Blue Sky Development to create 100 units of affordable housing at the old abandoned city power station site, while reactivating the power station itself as a craft brewery. At the time, city officials told us it was a priority project. We gave tours to each council member of an existing Blue Sky complex. When the RFP was completed, our joint group was the only submission received. Yet here we are, 2.5 years later, no closer to signing an agreement than when we started. So why is this any different? Why should we believe in the current RFP process? Why should we blindly trust the city any longer and continue to invest millions? We've been told we are priority projects, that our work is loved, that only because of our investment in the hotel would we be considered for golf course management. But talk is cheap. We're requesting a vote tonight for or against our well-vetted and publicly discussed plans for the golf course. This is my third public meeting on this, and no matter the outcome, it will be my last. There is nothing left to discuss. I posted about today's meeting on the Harder Hall Facebook page just yesterday. In 24 hours, there have been over 25,000 views and hundreds of comments and shares supporting our plans. Talk about marketing for the city. Just 3 weeks ago, the Highlands News Sun reported that we were being offered a lease by the city. Please prove that to be true. A yes vote tonight shows that you support historic restoration and that you encourage and value historic-minded, heritage-first renovation and tourism in your town, and that Sebring is a business-friendly climate. Allow us to continue our mission to bring the most prominent landmark in Sebring back to life where so many others have been lost, while in the process creating good-paying jobs, civic pride, and tax dollars. Allow us not to receive a concession, but to bolster the city's tax rolls by assuming what has amounted to be a massive government subsidy in the golf course. Allow us to unwind this 100-year boondoggle and return the course to the hotel to create a resort, a win-win for everyone. And please honor what we have been led to believe, if not for years, then certainly this entire year, was on the horizon. And approve this thoughtful contract that protects the city from all downside and gives citizens and taxpayers immediate upside. I do sincerely thank you all for your hard work and your dedication to service. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I thank you for your vote.
All right, we're going to start with council comments or questions, and then we'll move to public comment. Any comments?
Yeah,
Okay.
always. First of all, I don't know where you got the information about Harder Hall giving the golf course, because the people that gave it to the golf course didn't own Harder Hall. So I'm not sure where you got that information.
That was a newspaper article that I provided you with when we met.
It's
It
not-
says it was in the newspaper.
It's not true.
Well, the deed
Let's keep it to the
the
podium.
deed
please.
restriction was a member of the hotel. So it was given by the hotel.
Right.
You're factually incorrect, and I provided that.
Well, just because it's in the newspaper don't mean it's true.
But also, the ownership group shows the name John O. Wilson. He was a member of the hotel group. He was the secretary.
Second of all, you were a city council in St. Pete. You know the proper protocol to get rid of any property that's owned by the city or county is an RFP. That's proper protocol. So,
Is that mandatory?
and we did vote on it. We did vote.
There was no vote taken last week.
The other one. We didn't call it a
I'll
vote,
ask
but
that again
everybody
to Attorney
agreed.
Swain.
So why don't we let Councilmember Carlisle finish his thoughts?
We all agreed to do so. So you can call it a vote or a no vote, but every councilman agreed to do an RFP. The contract that we have, the city would be foolish to sign it because in the beginning, y'all were gonna take care of the drainage. And this new contract, you want us to take care of the drainage. So anytime there's water on the course, y'all are gonna holler at us, you know, and that's, we're fighting that already. We don't need to fight it for somebody else. And Fred has done a great job. So, and your post on your thing is, I know personally someone posted on your, whatever you want to call it, your Harder Hall thing, and you deleted them and blocked them. Personally, I know that person because you didn't like their comments. So I feel like I really feel like you're bullying us by the media, you know. So I don't appreciate it at all.
Can I address these points?
Let's go through council first, and if they have specific questions, then we'll go from there.
Okay, it's fine.
Other comments or
Not
or
right
questions?
I-
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I also have not been here except since April, and I believe the RFP is the appropriate way to go through transparency. Also, marketing for the city, reading through your comments, there wasn't a lot of positive about the city. It was bashing the city council in many respects. There was no positive there. Anything positive was counteracted with what your position was. So I feel that that's your post did not market us, if that was one of your points. And it's just that as it's presented now, I'm not in favor of the contract that you've provided. So I think the RFP process would be the appropriate way to move forward.
I've got some comments too, and I agree. I think the RFP is the way to go. I think that it's the most transparent and ethical way to do it. I think a mistake might have been not pushing for this in the beginning, and that's my fault. This is the first time, this is my first term as any public servant, and certainly the first time that I've been involved with potentially disposing of a multi-million-dollar city-owned asset. So if I feel like I've done anything wrong, it's that I didn't personally push for an RFP at the very beginning. And I know that you've been here before I even took office. You know, you've been talking to people who, before I was elected. It's been a long time. I know that in your statement you kind of said talk is cheap. I do value what you guys are doing, and talk is cheap. And there are elements of this proposal that you've given us that I'm not in favor of. One of the things that I've learned recently is that the deed restriction concept is probably not defensible in court, right? And under the current contract that you proposed, it allows a lot of uses that are not the golf course, and that concerns me, right? I think it said it could be used, operated as a park, public recreation, a restaurant, a spa, or any hotel supporting uses, which means you could stop the golf course and just have the spa where the caddy shack is, and that would be permissible under this agreement. Once a sale takes place, from my understanding, there are no restrictions. And I don't think this is your intention, but if you so choose, you could pursue developing it. You know, it could be condos in 10 years. I've also found out that even if we input a reverter clause onto it, where that specifically said it will revert to the city if any use other than a golf course exists, that will expire after 21 years. So I'm concerned about any transaction that ends with a sale and isn't a long-term lease for that respect. I think that probably most of the people here tonight in support would be angry if in 22 years a bunch of condos popped up there. And again, I don't think that's your intention. But I can only vote on the legal outcomes that I see. As far as the RFP, you mentioned that you don't think that any other submissions would hold a candle to yours. And I agree. I think you're probably right there. I think that you participating in the RFP process would lead to an almost certainty of you being selected in the RFP process, because you do have a distinct advantage. You're bringing an economic impact to our city that would be hard to match with any other proposal. So a no vote for me tonight is not a no vote on the Blackman family or the Harder Hall Hotel or your plans. It is a vote asking you to participate in the RFP so that we can do things in a way that I think is transparent and ethical. There's the other, there's been some things mentioned, the drainage systems issue. Those are issues in the contract that I have a problem with, but I think at the end of the day, my personal preference would be for you and your family to participate in the RFP process. And I think, just speaking for myself, there's a very high certainty, a very high probability that I would be voting for your selection in that process. But I think it's the process that we have to go through. And to address the timeline, your current proposal doesn't have you taking possession of the course until October 2027. We have time to do an RFP. It won't take that long. It's not going to derail the plan from a timeline phase.
I'd like to think you all know where I stand on this, and I feel like it's a very positive move for the city of Sebring and also for the county to bring. And I'd like just to read a statement as saying, leasing the municipal golf course to the Blackman family is a pragmatic, fiscally responsible decision that aligns with the city of Sebring's economic development goals. It eliminates ongoing taxpayer losses, unlocks significant private investment, and ensures the preservation and enhancement of a cherished public asset, Harder Hall. This is not a giveaway, it's a strategic partnership with long-term returns far exceeding the short-term costs. I really think this is a great project for the city. I'd hate to see this thing mothballed and move forward or turn into an ALF. I think the resort is the way to go, and I think it's just a destination for us. In the past, I think Chief Detman was on the council when the guy from Miami that came up, and the city tattooed a $5 million HUD loan. They guaranteed the HUD loan for this guy from Miami coming up. He skimmed $1 million off the top, left town with his two blonde bimbos, if you want to call them his design team, and the city took $1 million loss on top of that. They had to carry the debt until it sold. So they did not put the money into it like the Blackmans have. They've got to have at least 10 million plus into that. The roof, you've seen the roof, it's beautiful with the underground, with the windows that are going in. They're doing a lot to that, and it's going to be a valuable asset to our community. So that's my thoughts. So.
I have nothing to add. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I think you both argued points very well.
A lot of people here tonight. I think there's a lot of excitement going on. And first, I just want to say thank you to the Blackman family for the investment that you've put in. You've done a lot, so it's exciting to see the progress, the new roof, and movement going on. I think there's a lot of people here upset about the possibility of just council saying, no, we don't want the Blackmans here. We don't want the investment. We don't want the growth. That's not true for me. I'm excited about the growth. I'm excited about the opportunity. I'm looking forward to investors and development and new things coming to Sebring. So I think when you said a yes vote is going to say, come on in, we want you. And a no vote is saying the opposite. And I would disagree with that, saying we will like to see what you're doing. We're encouraging what you're doing, but we want to make sure that the city and the council, we're making the best decisions with the information that we've had. Can say probably for the last 18 months, I don't think it'd be exaggeration to say that this has been a topic of discussion in one way or the other, nearly every single day, going through these contracts, constantly looking at things, asking questions, and trying to have a better understanding of the bigger picture. You guys have done a lot of good is coming. I just want to address a couple things that you said too. With the blue sky RFP and losing the faith of the city. I just want to address that too, saying I'm really excited about the ideas and the opportunities that Blue Sky presents. And because we put out an RFP and we like that idea, it doesn't mean that we have to accept that RFP. So going down that process, one of the reasons I think that it's been stalled out is the cost that it's going to take for the city and working through that and navigating potential moves and development costs. So even if we do put out an RFP, if the RFPs come back and we say, no, we don't like those ideas, it doesn't force the city into making an option. What I want to do with an RFP, and this is why I'm an advocate for it, because I believe public office is a public trust. Just went to FLC and Florida League of Cities, a lot of ethics. We want people to have faith and trust in the government and in the city council to make the best and right decisions. So I think allowing the RFP would allow council to take on the additional proposals for the highest and best use for the property. I think it gives everybody a chance for a seat at the table and to bring the most benefit to the taxpayers and the communities while providing the most transparency in this decision-making process. Creating this opportunity just ensures that we're making the best informed decisions based on the information that we have. So it's, again, I agree with Josh. I think if you participate in the RFP process, I think it's going to be very difficult for anybody to come close to what you all want to do. With that being said, again, my no vote is based on what you have asked us to approve tonight, which is the contract in front of us. I don't know if everybody here knows this. I want to give a little bit of context based on the information that I have. So back in, I think, June 9th, 1927, it could have also been January or July. It was hard to read the contract from 1927. So it was between Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, New Jersey couple, and the city of Sebring. So both parties bargained and assigned the golf course. It says in the contract, forever. The property is deeded to the city for the purpose and for the use as a municipal golf course, as a public park, as a place of recreation or amusement. If the city at any time fails to keep it up, maintain, and use the property for anything other than listed above, or abandons the property, the land should revert to the Wilsons' heirs. That's my understanding of that contract. Public office is a public trust. Nearly 100 years ago, the city got in an agreement with somebody to say, we trust the city to hold this property, to use this property for these purposes. The current contract that you have has that purchase agreement, and that was one of my biggest sticking points in this whole deal. I personally believe the intent of that deal nearly 100 years ago was for the city to maintain this property. I'm not comfortable and I'm not willing to agree to a contract as presented that gives ownership and takes away ownership from the city. I'm 100% good with the long-term lease that you have in I think, section 4 of the contract. I would like shorter terms of that, but I'm okay with a long-term lease. But to lose ownership, that's a non-starter for me. The drainage issue that was brought up, the original contract has the Blackman family taking ownership of the drainage. But now in that new contract that's before us tonight, that shifts the liability from the Blackmans over to the city. So that's another reason that I can't agree to this contract as presented. And like Josh said, I hope this isn't just a no, but I hope this is a further discussion of what we're looking at. Council has met with the workshop and another meeting, so this is really one of the first times that we can discuss some of our concerns publicly too. And I know that this has been some of my concerns when we first started talking, face to face during Zoom meetings. So between the purchase option, the drainage system, and then the ownership interest changed. So in the original contract, the ownership had to be 20% with your party, and then that has shifted to not 20%, but any kind of ownership. So that to me is a little bit concerning. So it's, to me, that it looks like, I'm not saying that you're going to do this, but it looks like it could open the door for another developer, another investor to come in, and we want to work with you all, but if that ownership stipulation changes, we could be working with somebody else. Again, not saying that you're doing that, or you would, but I'm saying that's some of the contract issues that I have. So that's why I couldn't vote for this as is. I don't want to discount anything that you all have been doing. Massive improvements, and we want to continue this, but again, I think if we can work through some of these specifics on the contracts, those are the things that I can't vote for.
Before we open it up to public comment, would you like to?
Yeah, I took notes on some things. You know, I'm gonna go Councilmember, but first I'll say, you know, if this city can't, in 6 months' time, get a contract together in 2.5 years, an RFP, there is a serious business issue. And, you know, Councilmember Carlisle, I'm not gonna, doesn't matter if it was procedurally correct or not on the RFP, because you guys can amend that right now. So that's, I'm not gonna go back and forth with you on that. I do agree that Fred Tucker has done a great job. You said Facebook postings were deleted. I guarantee you there's been 0 posts deleted on that Facebook page at all about tonight's meeting. So I have nothing to say about that other than that.
I can
And
call them and they can come chill or by the post. And where you delete it and block them.
I have a moderator for that page. In the past, when people said hateful things, it is a private page.
It wasn't hateful.
0 things have been deleted from the post about tonight's meeting. I promise you that.
It wasn't hateful.
Am I gonna have the time to talk uninterrupted as well?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. You know, Josh, you said that we are gonna be the ones selected. If that's the case, then
To be clear, I didn't
we would
say that.
likely be the ones. Why waste taxpayer money by having city staff go through this process? And also, if we have such a good partnership, why didn't you have the decency to tell us you'd be doing that RFP motion when we've been negotiating in good faith for months now? That is really dismaying to us and very disrespectful in our opinion. We felt we were hung out to dry. I ran out of a dinner meeting because I got a text, hey, you're getting sandbagged at city council in Sebring. And why did we continue negotiating for weeks and weeks and weeks? The deed restrictions we've been told by our attorney convey, if that was also the case, the first time I'm hearing this publicly, this has to be a two-way street because our attorney has been in contact with Administrator Natelick and Attorney Swain and the mayor. You know, if there's stuff being held back from us, we can't, you know, we could have worked on that behind the scenes if we had known. This is the first I've heard. If there was going to be an RFP 6 months ago when we were brought out for the cattle call, it should have been done. And again, if it's just going through the motions, I don't know why we'd waste taxpayer money by having city staff waste their time on something like this. I went out of order because the way I wrote things, but Councilmember Kogoshatz, I didn't bash the city on that post at all. That was the public, and it's not my fault if that's the way they feel about what they're seeing. And that, I think, goes to a broader thing of the way city's doing business, which I will jump for a minute to Harrison. I've personally brought 5 different billionaires to this town to show them around and try and have them do business here. A friend of mine who owns a nationwide company said emphatically after seeing the treatment on this golf course, he would never relocate his business here, have a branch. This is sending a message that we can't get things done in 2.5 years, 6 months, just kicking the can down the road. And you know, you say that you don't have to accept an RFP if you do one, then why should I trust this process? That's exactly what I'm saying. You know, Councilmember Stewart said that, you know, the takeover's now been pushed to 2027. That's because we couldn't get the contract done. It was going to be 2025, but it's gone on and on and on. And, you know, when you look at things, it was also brought up by Councilmember Avery. When you look at things from a bank, right? If we were going to get financing, they would want to know in advance, what's this going to be? What's the product going to be? We need certainty for ourselves so that we don't just keep spinning our wheels. This has been a largely philanthropic process that's not been grounded in business reality, but we need to start because that's why we said, hey, let's get this vote going, because we were always told, prove yourselves more. We've been burned before. But because other people got such great deals, we're being treated less than others. And that's not fair. We have proven we think ourselves, and we've gotten no reciprocation back, and it's very concerning to us. I've heard no time frames on RFPs, nor a guarantee that an RFP anything would be accepted. The ownership mandates that Harrison brought up, excuse me, Councilmember Avery, I agree completely. Those are only on us. They wouldn't be on anybody else. And the only thing I guess I would really agree with is I agree with everything Councilmember Bishop said. Other than that, I open it up for public comments. Thank you.
Robert said it well.
we feel disrespected, we have been disrespected.
Give your name, please,
Oh,
for the record.
James Black,
There you go.
Carter Hall. I'll address one point of Chair Stewart's. We don't have 2 years to wait. We pushed to 27 due to a lot of other things that the city and in negotiation. We have now before us a budget of over $20 million that needs to be addressed for mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. We need to know very shortly whether that hotel will be, as the mayor said, mothballed, whether it will be a cheap hotel because it's not a resort, whether it will be an ALF that doesn't need a golf course. We have a proposal of $2,650,000 for the architecture for the interior, just the architect's fee. Aside from the major systems, it's easily going to be another $10 million. So it's a $40 million project. We need to know, yes or no, whether we should go forward in the path we're going. And it needs to be tonight. That's our feeling. Thank you.
All right, we're going to open it up to public comments. When you come up to speak, please state your name for the record. Mayor will be running a timer. Please keep it brief. Please keep it civil. Thank you.
My name is Terry Mendel, and I was a former city councilwoman. I went off, termed out in April, and I had a front row seat to the Blackmans and their wonderful vision for Sebring for a 5-star Harder Hall resort and golf course. And I was, even before I was elected for my 3-year term, I was watching how our city council, I felt like was not business friendly to others. I was actually horrified at some of the things. The disrespect I felt like was shown to some of the people that came for business opportunities. And I don't believe anybody in Sebring could have wished for, we didn't even dream we would have somebody like the Blackmans come in here. And we're so grateful to the Blackman family. And I want to ask City Council, do you want to be the ones that put a roadblock and destroy this vision for this 5-star Harder Hall Resort and golf course? Do you want to be the one that kills this project because it's on the edge of being killed? And in the last 3 years, when I've been front row seat watching the negotiations and part of that, I've seen the Blackmans bend over backwards to accommodate the city and to just have roadblock after roadblock thrown their way and be treated very disrespectfully. And I'm very sad for our city council. But again, do you want to be the ones that are known to kill this project? They have waited and waited and waited, and they were led to believe, and I heard it with my own ears, that the city was going to do everything they could to work a deal on the golf course, and that has not been what's happened. And I don't know that people understand that do I have 3 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
A
I
minute
don't
left.
know that people understand one of the major issues with that golf course is the topography and the hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions of dollars it's going to take to bring that up to be a resort quality golf course. And we have this wonderful group that's willing to do this. So I'm wholeheartedly in favor of it. And I'm very sad that I feel like disrespect has been shown to them. The Blackmans have spent hours and an amazing amount of time coming to Sebring to work on projects that they have no vested interest in. So I ask you again, do you want to be the city council that's known for killing this project? We are this close to losing our 5-star Harder Hall Resort and golf course. Thank you.
Next.
Tom Mendel. I wasn't going to get up to speak, but hearing what's going on reminds me of a previous project the city council was going to approve on a $20 million water park improvement. And it was only because the people got up and said, this is ridiculous, and there was no basis for it. And the decision was made never to, or at least it has never moved forward. And here you are, you're getting ready to make another bad decision. So I'd be very careful. You don't want to destroy something that's going so well.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Rachel. I'm a local realtor with the Heritage Group here. I'm also a mother. I see both sides. Understanding that, you definitely don't want to let something go that the city was given. You don't know. I've worked with snaky investors before. You have to understand their concerns. You're from Tampa, but at the same time, in 40 years, some of us won't be here. Some of us will be retired. My daughter will be here. Her granddaughter will be here. The demographic here is an older majority. It's not younger. They're leaving because there's not money-wise usually. I know you guys are doing a lot to keep that together, and I know there are a lot of liabilities with bringing stuff like that in. You're right, it could be a condo, it could be a zoo, who knows. That should be protected, but at the same time, we need the business to come in. HGTV, one of the things they were saying in Alabama was that will bring the people, it won't keep the people. We have to keep the people to keep visiting and buying and seeing things. So I hope it passes. I hope that you guys are able to come to terms and still be able to keep, the city happy too. But yes, we need it. We need the growth. Thank you.
You have 2 minutes left, Barry.
Barry Foster, 414 West Main Street, City of Charm, Avon Park. Don't start me yet. This is the most excitement I've seen since you sold the SUC. Good gravy. I've watched this since 1986, which may be longer than some of you have been alive. Not Leonard, of course, but I've watched since Avi Lamore tried this with Gary Puckett. I've watched the struggles the city has gone through. I watched the city buy a portion of this course from a private investor. I think George Hensley had to put across private property on the fourth green because that was owned by, and it was your dad that was in here that took care of this. I've seen this council, and you can make any kind of deal you want. There was a developer came in and wanted to build a hotel on the a vacant lot up here on the circle where the Tropical Bank used to stand. And John Griffin, who sat where Mr. Havery sat, said, we will allow you to make this one hotel, and if it changed by more than 10%, you have to bring it back for our approval. If you change anything, you have to bring it back for our approval. Obviously, it never got built. But you can make any kind of deal you want. You can set it any kind of way you want. This council has the ability to craft a deal in the way they want. And I know about the reverter clause. In fact, there was a time they were going to sell Max Long, and they figured that they couldn't find the heirs anyway, even if they went looking for them. So even if they got money back, they couldn't find who they would give the money to or give the property to. It's that's kind of a foregone conclusion that there's nobody really to give it back to. So I would tell you that this council can make a deal. And Mr. Blackman, I got to tell you, you're dealing with municipal government. The wheels turn slowly here. they turn extremely slowly here. So, you know, you're lucky it's moved as fast as it can. But I don't understand. I have watched year after year this golf course lose money. Okay? And if it was me, which you're very lucky I don't live in the city, if it was me, I'd say at least you could do is have a referendum and ask the taxpayers, do they want to continue to fund this or not? You know, I mean, do they want you to take $1 or to lose $500,000 or 300,000 or any amount of money for that matter? I watched when all they needed was new carts, and all they needed was a new cart barn, and all they needed was this. The LPGA used to have tournaments here. They don't have tournaments anymore. They used to have great youth tournaments. They don't have that anymore. You know, I mean, you have an opportunity for a guy who wants to come in and bring this up to standards, okay? You have the ability to keep your finger on it if you want. You have a really good attorney, and his dad is a really good attorney, okay? And he has the ability to do things. So with 8 seconds left, I'll say thank you very much. Y'all have a blessed evening.
Kevin O'Donnell, homeowner on Little Lake Jackson. We have a lot of friends that come up and visit us from Miami or other places in the United States, and they always say the same thing. Man, Sebring, you got a lot of trailer parks, a lot of vape stores, a lot of dollar stores. You know, they're basically dishing our city, you know, all of the storage places. They don't see a lot of good stuff here. But when they do see good stuff, what they see is Lake Jackson, the Circle, Highlands Hammock Park, and this facility here. And I really wish we would build it and make it right. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Angel Pardo. I'm a City of Sebring resident. I think you should approve it. They're making a great investment in this community. To say no to them and not to negotiate would send the wrong message to businesses and investors. It would say we're not ready for the future. An RFP would be unfair to them with the investment they've made. Somebody else would benefit from it. Negotiate with them and get the deal you want. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Linda Vanette. I live off of Golfview Road and past the hotel and admire all the improvements every day. I just like to say, sitting here, I was mortified. I'm not sure which gentleman over here said it, but to call this family a bully, that you felt like you were being bullied, they deserve an apology. That's just very disrespectful. It's horrible. I'm mortified that that was said. That was awful. And I hope everybody supports this and gets this approved tonight. Stop wasting our time.
My name is Michelle Backus. I'm a native of this lovely city. I had my 40th birthday dinner at Harder Hall, and I'd like to have my 80th there.
So my name's Phil Hatfield from In on the Lakes, and I mean I'm fully supportive of what you guys are doing. You came into my office, so that's good. I'm gonna form a picture. But I think it's a struggle. It's not a struggle because you own Harder Hall, because you know exactly what you're gonna do. I think it's a struggle for these people because you don't you don't own the golf course. You want to know exactly what they're gonna do. What's presented to you in front of you now as far as that lease is there's some issues, and they all express what those issues are up there. And I think there's some bona fide issues. I'm sure you guys can work through it. Don't know if it's going to get worked through tonight, but I think that's the reason that they want an RFP, because a formal RFP will give you much more visibility. And I read that lease. There's not a lot of visibility in what you guys are going to do. I mean, to me, you're building a world-class resort, the likes of California or Myrtle Beach or whatever. And, God bless you, and I hope you can trust you'll do it. But right now, you don't give me any visibility of what you're going to do with that golf course to match the quality of the resorts you're building. If you could do that, I think these people, as well as me and everybody out there, is at 100% full understanding and full support of what you're doing. But right now, that visibility's not there. I think pretty much all of you have come to that conclusion. So again, it's not a no vote. It's just, for me, in a business thing, you guys are great business people, and all of us are that are in business here. But you got to understand what you're getting into. Right now, for me, from what I read and from what I'm hearing, I don't understand what the full intent of that golf course is. I mean, my dream, or your dream of what it is, I can see it, but I don't see it on paper. And I think that's what these people up here are looking for tonight. That's all. It's not, nobody's against the Blackmans here. I don't think anybody's against the Blackmans and what they're doing. You know, I mean, I've lived through every one of those people since we opened in on the lakes that they've all experienced. Who's the gentleman that came up and experienced all these guys? But anyway, all the guys with the guy from Miami. And, I mean, they used to pull up in on the lakes. He'd get out of his limousine with these chicks with long hair and bikinis and their flip flops. I mean, I remember those days. That's not you guys. I know that. And I'm not here to say that, but I mean, my point is, I just think we, the city, and the city council owes it to the city members. If they're going to do something with that piece of property that was given to the city, that we need to know exactly what's going to happen to it, and if nothing else, in deference to the people that gave that property to the city. So, anyway, that's all that's.
Are there any other public comments?
Oh, I apologize. This shining light was back halfway down there, and it kind of blinded me when I was announcing the previous council members. Dan Andrews used to sit on the council.
You didn't mention Miss Mandel.
That shining light was this way for some reason. But,
Dan Andrews, Sebring resident, for the record. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My biggest concern, and I've shared this with each and every one of you, is you started down a road. And Josh, I appreciate your apology that, you know, maybe in hindsight, an RFP out of the gate might have been the right way to go. The problem is you started negotiations with the Blackmen. You started in good faith. And I think I don't care about their feelings. What I care about is the image of the community. And they've got thick skin. They'll suck it up. They'll take whatever it's dealt to them. But what the community looks like is that we started negotiations with a family. We got to a sticking point and decided to pull the rug out from underneath it. And now we're going to go to an RFP. And I don't think that's a fair process for anybody. I agree, the RFP would have been the right process out of the gate. But it's not the process that the city of Sebring started with the Blackman family. And I think you owe them an obligation to see that through. And if you have these changes and you've said that you can't, this is your first, I think Harrison said, the first opportunity to publicly discuss this, the Blackman family's here to do that. Discuss it with them. Present changes that hey, you don't do this, we're not doing this. We want a complete and total plan of what the golf course is going to look like. Ask them that. But I think you have an obligation to them because you started it that way. I think you need to finish it with the Blackman family and then deal with what lays. Thank you.
Would I be allowed to make a second comment?
No, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Cliff Rhodes, resident of Sebring since 1980. I'm gonna put Bobby on the spot. Bobby, is an RFP legally required?
It is not.
Then table it and sit down with these guys. You guys table it, and let's figure it out. You don't need the RFP. Your lawyer just told you didn't need the RFP.
Legally required, and whether they think it's beneficial are two different questions.
I understand that, but I've heard the talk. I haven't been involved in this hunt, but I hear that these guys have tried with this city to get this thing moving, and you're pulling the rug out from underneath them with an RFP. Everybody around knows they want this golf course,
and they've known it for years. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Tom Detman, 3390 Lakeview Drive, former city councilman, police chief. I think what I'm hearing and digesting this evening is very frustrating, because we've had plenty of time, lots of time, to go through everything that we need to go through in order to have this vote tonight. Mr. Havery's got some questions and some concerns. I totally understand them. Stewart, I don't agree with you on the RFP. I think it's a waste of time and money. Ma'am, I don't know you, but I do understand what you had said. Why hasn't it been that we haven't broken all of these issues out ahead of time and had them laid out for everybody to digest, to chew on, and make a decision on? That's taken way too long. It's not good. Bottom line is, I do agree with 100% with Mayor Shoup and most of the folks out here in the audience. I don't see where this vote is going to go any more than a 4-1 against it, but I want you to know that I'd be highly disappointed if I were the Blackmans and putting the effort, the time, and the money that they put into it so far and haven't seen the end of that trail. Thank you.
Since Sebring, I just want to say, when all these negotiations began, these people weren't all in office. I salute you guys for doing what you did. It might not be popular, but thank you for doing it.
Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Gerson Salazar, and I'm a local business owner. Grew up in Porter Hall. I'm here for an unrelated list for a festival that we're going to have. But one of the reasons why we're doing this festival is to bring tourism here and the economy to this town. One of the first things that I hear in a restaurant on the floor in store is that what this wonderful man is trying to do here. I'm a business owner. I go here. You guys see me around all the time on the circle. This is something major for our local business owners. It does help us out. Whatever you guys need to work on, the legalities that you guys have to do, please consider this a bigger issue than just now. This is a future that we're working on. And our business, our local business, depend on major issues like this. It's a big thing. This is an impact thing for Pinus County, and we cannot let this go. I don't think you guys should let this go. Thank you.
Doug Walls for the record. I think you've all, council, have heard nothing but positives tonight in regards to what the Blackman Group is offering and trying to produce and do for our community. Harrison, I totally agree with your assessment of the current lease as it stands, if you were able to read it from 27. If that is a sticking point, then that is something that still needs to be negotiated. I would simply offer that somebody make the motion to table this, to continue to negotiate with the Blackman Group to figure out what sticking points you both have with the current lease that's been submitted. Clearly there are some sticking points that you can't agree to. Great, keep negotiating, but don't pull the rug out from underneath a group that's been negotiating, understanding that they were negotiating in good faith with our city, and then change the rules at the last minute. So I'd simply request tabling this and continuing a discussion with this group.
Anyone else tonight?
probably not anybody who started in Sebring before I did in this whole crowd. Maybe a couple of them that are older, but even Leonardo didn't come here when I did.
I was born here.
Well, like I said,
Downtown Sealand.
I can still remember him when he was in the 7th and 8th grade, and I was a junior and senior. This is fairly simple. You should have done your homework, and you didn't do it. You've had months and years now. Well, most of you have had at least months, not a year and a half, to get behind the scenes and all the stuff that Commissioner Havery brought up. Why didn't you bring that up a year ago? What you brought up, why didn't you bring it up a year ago? You haven't been here, so you don't know. I don't understand why you're now bringing up excuses for not going forward. It's an option to do nothing, but it's not a good option. Never has been, never will be. My concern is, having been here only about 30 years of my 80 years now, I've missed out on a lot of what Sebring could have done. And I've heard a lot about the things that didn't happen because people didn't do what they should have done. If you don't make the right decision, you've lost millions upon millions of dollars, not just from this family, but from their friends who have already said they want to come to Sebring. Some of them are beginning to back out already when they see what's on the ropes here. If you don't do the right kind of things, we will just be like that little town in Alabama where people come and say, oh, this is pretty, and go away. All you will see is painted buildings with no meaning behind them. Please, don't let that happen to us again.
Harry Havery, 452 Oak Avenue, lifelong resident. Just as a point of clarification, when was this contract presented to the council?
Monday.
Monday? Thank you.
Not last Monday, excuse me, I think. Zach.
Monday.
Okay. Anyone else?
Everybody pretty much knows who I am, Karen Neal Tedder. All I have to say is, for many years, I watched the city and the county go through economic growth and development. I've seen a lot of failure. I've seen a lot of good outcome. I've seen a lot of people fight uphill battles and downhill battles. Mr. Mayor Shoup, you were on many of those boards, saw a lot of things come and go. All I ask is that you look through the contract, read it black and white, because not everything is black and white. I feel that the city, in some aspects, is being taken advantage of. I'd like to see the golf course do better. I'd like to see a proposal of what they want to do to the golf course, how they're going to make it better. I know it's going to take tax burden off the city of Sebring, but I really think you need to think long and hard about what you want to do, because someone entrusted the city with that land to stay public and to keep it public. And I don't want to go anywhere else about any other properties that are involved in it. But I just think that I'd like to see Hart Hall back. I had my high school prom there. Okay, I've been here for 51 years. I've seen a lot. But I just think you really need to read the contract. And if you were just given the contract less than a week ago or more than a week ago, now's not the time to make a decision. Thank you.
Deborah McNall, Sebring.
member of Sebring Golf Club. While I have been against this from the past because of the giving away, the leasing for $1. Somehow I don't feel that is right. However, I'm going to reverse a little bit here. As a member of the golf course, which is not in great shape right now, nor has it been for the last few years, nor has it been run properly. We've lost junior programs, we've lost tournaments, we have lost a lot of revenue that could have been gained with better management. The condition of the course right now, I don't think anybody here is a golfer, but you need to come out and play the course. And my request would be to find out what Mr. Blackman does want to do with the course and give us an idea of what it's going to look like. Because those of us who are golfers and that care about it, with a little more knowledge about what's going to happen, we might be more in favor of it. And I hope that discussion happens, but I hope it isn't all done behind closed doors.
Is there anyone else this evening? Okay. You gentlemen wanted to speak.
Thanks, and I do appreciate everybody coming out, whether they spoke or not, and you guys listening. Just, you know, the last couple closing points were, you know, is the topic was brought up by Harrison's dad about when you guys got the lease. It only came to you guys a week ago because we were instructed to change out Caddyshack to reflect what has become, you know, with you guys, what their options are. We had another lease, and this has been evolving. They've substantially had this lease for 6.5 months, February and March. We keep making changes, but we're not redoing the whole thing. It's term by term changes. And that's the other reason we feel kind of sandbagged tonight, like I did about the RFP. Is like, you know, I'm hearing from Councilmember Havery and you, Chair Stewart, like that there's big changes that you would never be for. But when we were going back and forth and dealing with, you know, Administrator Natelick and Attorney Swain and the mayor, we never heard these changes. We've made everything we were told about. So to be confronted even today with more changes is shocking. And it's just further evidence of why I don't have faith in this process anymore. I mean, the fact that, again, it was said, the most alarming thing, now forget saying that we're bullies or whatever, the most alarming thing that was said tonight is, you know, Councilmember Havery said the quiet part out loud. We don't have to do anything with an RFP. We could just let it sit like your other one from 2.5 years ago. And I will read a quote from, again, probably a fake news, as you would say, newspaper. Financing arranged for Sebring Hotel, this in 1927, when it had gone bankrupt, and the group that included John O. Wilson, Congressman Keese from Pennsylvania, purchased it at Courthouse Steps. The financing of Harder Hall Hotel on the south shore of Lake Jackson has been completed, but the financiers are holding up the proposition pending a request that the city expand the present 9-hole municipal golf links to an 18-hole. That's when the land was donated. So this was always to be a hotel amenity. There's no question about that. And that was from the original. They said, we're not going to do this, give the money unless we know we have a golf course. They were always meant to be a resort. This, again, I will quote, which I quoted in March, the historic register application where it said in 1990 that the hotel always suffered because it was wholly out of scope with size and reality of the market. We know the only way for this thing to succeed is a resort, and we have made good faith efforts. I'd bother the mayor and Mr. Natelick more than we should, and we said, hey, are we ready to go? Is everything good? We read in the paper that a lease was forthcoming. We're getting submissions and revisions back, and then for a bunch of terms to come out tonight, it is just absolute ludicrous. I never saw that coming, and I agree. If there was issues with this, they do have to be dealt with in private, only because you can't have them discussing with each other. So we went to every council member one by one and said, what changes do you want made? One by one. We spent hours with this, and then we went back and forth with the attorneys. This has been as well vetted as I think we possibly could have. We have been dealing in earnest on this for over 6 months. That's how we came in March. It wasn't in March we said, hey, we want the golf course. We had a lease that day. So this was not a 1 week ago thing. This was the last revision where we were asked to take out the 3 years we had offered for Caddyshack was taken out last week. But everybody's been fully, I believe, involved with this. And it's just, this whole exercise has been very shocking, disappointing, frustrating, eye-opening. My biggest mistake was investing in a town where I trusted that I would be treated fairly, or at least as others have been. And I was told blindly for years, just show a little bit more progress, show a little bit more progress. And for multiple council members to say today, hey, we don't have to honor an RFP and we're never going to accept things, this is a very scary business climate, and I'm very concerned spending another dime here. And that's just my candor. I've really tried to be you guys' biggest cheerleader, like I said. I brought 5 of my friends who are all billionaires. I brought multiple business owners. Just this last week, I had a movie production company come here. I've been trying to cheerlead for you guys, but I never saw this coming, and I wish I could have had the decency to be told, hey, you know how you read that article in the paper? We're going to throw it out. We're going to go to an RFP. I shouldn't have found that out by somebody texting me after they're watching a meeting. That's wrong, and that is disrespectful. Thank you.
A vote will be taken tonight. I would like to problem solve on at least 2 issues. The deed restrictions are in the lease. The only addition is that that restaurant building might be converted. The golf course will be the golf course. There can be no condominiums or housing built on it, which is why you're not going to have anybody else who has an ounce of sense reply to an RFP. The golf course is worth 0. It loses money. You cannot sell a business that loses money or anything. We are proposing to take care of the losses every year going forward. Administrator, how much has the golf course lost the past 3 years, 1 year at a time?
I will invite Penny and or Jared to come
Okay,
up and
well,
go over the
they can
numbers.
tell us in a minute. So, you know, I think on the radio, you mentioned schematics of the building, the courses. We're not going to jump through those hoops. We don't feel we need to. That is disrespectful. We might build another building, you know, adjacent to the golf course. But who did the schematics to put a mini warehouse across from a National Historic property? We're going to landscape that. That's ugly. That should have been where the retention pond was. And the mini warehouse for the golf course shouldn't be facing Gulfview Road. That's one of the changes. Now, let me address changes and the drainage. The drainage issue has changed. That's the only thing that's changed in the past month or 2. The reason it changed is we went to you, council, and said, we think we can solve at least half of the drainage problem by utilizing the property across from the dirt road from the fire substation. You said no. I think you viewed it as a land grab. That was going to solve, we think, about half of the golf course drainage. You rejected that. Okay. We then said, okay, if we can't solve that, what we will do is we'll do a bunch of ponds, retention ponds in the course that don't flow into the current drainage system. What that will give us is dirt to, as I think Ms. Mendel or somebody mentioned, there's no topography to speak of that would be a good course. If we have a bunch of water hazards, those water hazards, the digging of them will give us more topography variation. So those are our plans. Now, the reason we don't want to be responsible for the drainage is, as I understand it, Max Long drains through the course. I also am quite aware of all the shortcomings that really we can't control of the drainage system. More than half of it drains through my lot that's adjacent to the hotel. I don't want to tell you any more about that, but I'm intimately aware of the shortcomings of the drainage system. And your Swift Mud permit, unless it got renewed in the past few months, expired in 2010. As an individual, I don't like dealing with a state or federal unelected bureaucrat. The city can deal with that a lot easier than we can. Additionally, not only the Allen treatment plant has been out of service for 4 to 6 years. Apparently, it's going to be up and running. The dam by the Allen treatment plant is regularly overrun when there's a heavy rain. So the water isn't going to get treated anyway. All of these things need to be dealt with by the city and should have been dealt with years ago. What we want to do is improve the course, not worry about the drainage. And in the lease, it says we will not contribute to the drainage. We won't have our water hazards draining into the present drainage system without city approval. Does that answer your drainage question? You seem to worry about we shifted responsibility to you guys, to the city. The reason we shifted it is we couldn't solve it. You do. You're good.
The last thing is, if you read the lease, we said anything on site we'd take care of drainage wise. Max Long is going to be continued to drain through there, but we didn't want to have to maintain it because we're not the ones creating that flow from a site we have no involvement in. The only thing we said we wanted you guys to have responsibility for is perimeter drainage that drains off site. But that's like if you have a home, right? A single family home, rain hits your roof, goes into your gutter, runs down your driveway, goes into the street. After it hits the street, the homeowner is not responsible for it. Every single business and other lot in the city is like that. We just wanted to clarify that anything on the perimeter that's flowing into the lakes, we didn't want to be responsible for culverts to get into, Lake Jackson that were improperly poured under a highway or something, because that's out of the bounds of basically a golf course. That was literally the entire intent of that, and I think it's pretty clear if you read it, that we said we won't contribute anything new. We just didn't want off-site drainage to be under our purview.
All right. Are there any comments by council? Go to the
I would like to say that we were submitted this last Monday and then we were asked to put it on the agenda. So we had no time to discuss anything further. There was no option for negotiations because we were asked to put it on the agenda tonight. And if I quote Mr. Blackman, he'd rather have the fast no than the long maybe, is what he said before. So that's where we are standing now with this decision this evening.
Councilman Carlisle, do you have any comments or anything you want to say before the?
No.
Well, I think Leonard and I are probably the only ones to see this thing from fruition to today, but it has been going on for a long time. Second what you said, the RFP, we should, it should have been done earlier, but here we are. We've all had a lot of conversations with local business owners, public, a lot of awkward conversation, but all good. I completely support what these guys are doing. I want nothing more since I've been on council. I think, well, I shouldn't say that, but one of my big pushes was to get this golf course off the tax roll. It has been a drain for a long, long time. I want to see it happen. I think if I propose a motion here, it's a moot point. I don't see me getting any kind of support tonight, so that's where I'm going to leave it.
Just for the record, I asked for a RFP a long time ago, and I was ignored.
Okay.
I'd like to address a couple things. I'm trying really hard to understand and to see what everybody here has been saying this entire time, and it sounds like everybody's saying, hey, keep on working with them. We're really close to a deal. We're close to an agreement. So maybe new things have been brought up. I would just like to clarify too, a lot of the concerns that I've had with this contract and with the agreements were brought up during that public workshop. So one of the things I was looking for is, and correct me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong on this, but I thought I'd say I'm not open to the purchase agreement. I think the city should own this property indefinitely. One of the things I asked for too, which it's in the contract in section 14, but contract says the tenant may but is not required to provide the landlord a general improvement plan, but that doesn't mean we have to have a plan. So I wanted to see, one of the things I asked for was a capital improvement plan, and hey, what is the vision? What's the idea? Can we put an idea on paper? I think one of the comments was, well, we don't need to do that. And I'm going to go back to, again, that the public office is a public trust, and the city should know exactly what we're getting into. I'm looking at what CRA is doing, and if anybody is aware and reading the paper, and what the ancestry property is going to be with Ken LeBlanc. So I just want to give him a shout out too. CRA put an RFP out. A lot of proposals came back, and Ken presented, which CRA approved. This is the idea. This is the concept. This is the vision. This is how we're going to fund it. This is everything that you need to know to make a really good decision. And I think that's something that the council should have too. Say, hey, here's all the information. Here are all the details. We're not going to be blindsided by any decision. We have all the answers. We have clarity on the decision that is being made. So I'm back in the workshop. I was looking for a lot of that transparency, looking for the plan, looking to see more of the vision. So it's a lot I see this come fruition and happen, but if you're open to negotiation all, but I think you're just looking for a yes or a no. So those are the reasons of what I'm looking for, especially when we do put this out for RFP. And to be clear, I still stand by that decision. Whoever puts out an RFP, that doesn't mean we have to use it, because we want to do what's the best for the city, for the taxpayers, and if it's not a good idea, if it's not a good proposal, we shouldn't be obligated to accept it. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Said what I said. So I support it.
Okay. I have a couple final kind of comments. I think this council has made it clear we don't want to be in the golf course business. If our vote tonight is no, it doesn't mean we want to continue things. I said I think this council has made it clear that we don't want to be in the golf course business from a municipal standpoint. So even if it is a no vote tonight, that doesn't mean that our goal is for it to be business as usual. I think that is part of the push for an RFP, right? I would like our attorney to address the issue regarding permissible uses, including after a sale. And part of my big concern is the way I understand this contract and the way I understand the law regarding what could be done if the property was sold, is that right now there are many permissible uses that are not a breach of the contract that do not include a golf course. Meaning it could be many things besides a golf course without being in breach of the contract. And if I understand how the law works after a sale, most of or all of the protections that we might have now would go away. Do I think that their intention is to do something other than a golf course? No, but I can't really vote on intentions. If I voted for something and in 1 years that became 130 acres of developable land and 500 condos went up, I would not feel good about my vote. I have 2 young sons. They'll be here. They'll be living with the consequences of my decision tonight. I want to make sure I'm doing what's right for the future. Could you clarify that?
So a reverter is when the seller puts in the deed that they get the property back if a certain series of events occurs. Restrictions are that which limit what the buyer can do with the property going forward. There are statutes that allow for restrictions to go away after 30 years if they aren't mentioned in subsequent deeds. So despite best intentions, the restrictions could go away in the reasonably near future, even if everybody intended for them to stay. This sounds negative, and it's not intended to be. bankruptcy courts have great latitude to do whatever they want to do and to sell property, what is called free and clear of all liens. So it may not be up to the city after a sale to enforce restrictions. Now, that would be true whether the city were to go through the RFP process and decide to go with somebody else. It is not specific to the Blackman family. That's just the nature of restrictions. Private individuals can have a reverter provision last much longer, but the statutes say that local governments can only have them last for 21 years. Don't know where or why that is. In fact, the city actually caught the opposite side of that, had a reverter provision in the Women's Club building when it donated the property to the Women's Club. And because a gift from the city is not subject to that 21 years, they could sell it back to the city. They didn't have to give it back when they stopped using it as a women's club. So, you know, the city gets the short end on both aspects of that. I don't know if I adequately answered what you were asking.
I think you haven't, and that really is my fear with a sale. And why I agree with Harrison, I would be in favor of a long-term lease, but not a sale. A couple other points. One of the things that I think Harrison mentioned also is there is not a plan here that we have been privy to. We have contract, not a business plan, not a renovation timeline, just a contract. And lastly, you know, there was a mention of, you know, we should have done the RFP earlier, and I agree with that, but making a mistake in the past, to me, does not mean that we should continue making a mistake. And I do not believe that we're too far down the line to go through an RFP process. And I think that's it. Is there a motion?
All right, I'll take a shot in the dark here. I move that we table the lease agreement to be discussed at our October 21st meeting, so that the rest of council, or all of council, has time to review their concerns with staff and legal.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay. All right, we're moving on to the next agenda item.
Do we have a second?
We do not.
There was no second. For the benefit of the audience, the motion without a second fails, so there is no motion pending on the floor at the moment.
Okay. Okay.
The effect of it is that city council has not taken any action with regard to the proposed lease this evening.
Bob, do we need a RFP or a motion for the RFP, or is
No, sir.
That's okay.
You're welcome to make one, but we
No,
don't need
if we
one.
don't need one. We
If you would like to instruct staff.
Bernard, you wanna?
Huh?
They're debating whether to have a formal motion to direct staff to create the RFP for the golf course property.
We already did that.
Yeah, we discussed
So-
starting the
I
process.
make a
don't need to have
motion
one,
that
but
we
if you want one, go
continue
right
with
ahead.
the RFP and have staff write it up.
So I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion to.
I did not hear his motion at all.
Do
They
you
were
wanna-
talking over each other.
Directing staff to create an RFP for the golf
Direct
course
staff
property.
to do an RFP for the golf course property.
All right. So we have a motion and a
That was
second.
a second, Kathy.
Second.
Is there any public comment on this motion before we proceed? The motion is to instruct staff to continue with the creation of an RFP.
Harrison, second.
Bishop,
No.
Crowell,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Klobuchar.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes. Okay. We're going to move on to item number 10A. This is a public hearing regarding ordinance number 1554.
Wait a minute. Just wanna wait a minute.
Yeah, we'll give it a minute.
Josh. I got a fever and a headache. I'm going home.
Okay.
Leonard's
These
leaving.
people get out.
He does not feel well. Leonard is leaving. He does not feel well.
Oh, thank you.
Members of the audience, we're just giving those that wish to leave now an opportunity to step out before continuing with the balance of the agenda.
Are you filling in for Jennifer this evening? Okay.
Jeff.
Okay. All right, Mr. Swain, take it away.
Agenda item 10A has a proposed ordinance with it. It's ordinance number 1554. It's entitled an ordinance of the city of Sebring, Florida, changing the zoning classification for a parcel that totals approximately 0.19 acres located at 3611 Kenilworth Boulevard from commercial district C1 to 1 and 2 family district R2, providing for severability, providing for conflict, and providing for an effective date. You open the public hearing.
Gonna open the public hearing.
Good evening, Council. Jeff Schmucker, Central Florida Regional Planning Council. Got a brief presentation for you. This is a request for you tonight by Sarah Meyer of Dewberry Engineering on behalf of property owner Denise Hamilton. This is a request for a rezoning of 0.19 acres property located at 3611 Kenilworth Boulevard. The request here is to rezone the property from C1 to an R2 residential. This is as a result of the home that's on the property today having been damaged, destroyed by Hurricane Ian a number of years ago. The zoning on the property does not allow for single-family development. Thus, the request to come to a residential zoning for the ability to rebuild the home on the property. Next. Just a couple photos. This is a photo of the property. That's the home on the property looking from Kenilworth Boulevard. Next slide. Also a perspective view of the property looking east on Kenilworth Boulevard. Again, just kind of showing the area surrounding the property. And then next slide. And this is looking west on Kenilworth Boulevard at the property. Next slide. So as it was mentioned, property currently has a future land use of mixed use and is zoning a C1. Next slide. And the proposal is to rezone the property to an R2, 1 and 2 family residential. Next slide. So in terms of any land use or zoning changes, there's three primary items that we look at. It's consistency with the city's comprehensive plan. Is the request compatible with the area? And then what are the impacts on public facilities and services? So in this case, the R2 zoning would be consistent with the underlying future land use, which is a mixed use. Further considering the proposed use of the property being that it did formerly serve a single family home, and the intent here is to just rebuild the home that's on the property. It is consistent and compatible generally with the area. The area is primarily residential, some non-residential, and then Sebring High School is across the street. In terms of public impacts, facilities, and services, staff does not see that there would be any additional impacts than are there today. The property being downzoned actually to residential would be less impactful. However, because it is just a reconstruction of a home on the property, no additional impacts moving forward at this point. Next slide. Planning and Zoning Board meeting was held on September 9th. At that meeting, Planning and Zoning Board did make a recommendation of approval to City Council. With that, we'll stand to answer any questions that you all have on this item.
Are there any public comments or questions on this? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to adjourn the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 1544 on first reading and schedule second and final reading for October 7th, 2025.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Kathy, can you call the roll, please?
Yes.
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 Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to item 10B, Health Insurance Committee recommendations. Penny.
Evening, Council. The Health Insurance Committee met on September 10th, and they had a list of recommendations for your consideration for the plan year beginning January 1st, 2026. The first one was to accept the Cigna Administrative Services only and stop loss renewal. Again, with the effective date January 1st, 2026. The estimated fixed cost increase to the plan is 10.8%. As you'll recall, during the budget workshops, we were given some advice that it would be around 8.7%. And due to claims experience, the actual is looking more like 10.8. So one of the first recommendation or second recommendation was to increase the contribution from the employer side up to 10.8%, which is an additional cost of $61,419. The third recommendation was to increase the rate for employees by that same 10.8% for health insurance coverage, and then there was an increase for dental insurance by about 16% to match the cost of the plan. All of these cost increases were going to be passed on to the employee. And then the fourth recommendation was to increase the retiree rates to match the actual plan cost for all health, dental, and vision coverages. And the fifth recommendation was to change the plan benefit for the mental health, alcohol, and substance abuse and network outpatient office visit from a $75 copay to a $40 copay. And I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from council? Anything from the audience?
Mayor, council, and staff, good evening. Chief Carl Hoagland for the record. Thank you, obviously, for taking the time to allow me to share my concerns about the proposed employee increase for health insurance. As you're aware, the proposal is an increase of 10.8% for all employees, totaling $61,419. I know you contemplate this. This is a very significant issue for our employees. I want you to understand that this 10.8% increase has a name and a face for every employee that's infected. Specifically, for our basic plan employees, one of my members, this will cost 30% of the cost of living adjustment that you've approved this year for an employee and child plus dental insurance coverage. For another employee on the basic plan, it's 32% of their cost of living adjustment. For premium plan employees, one employee has 17% increase of their, or 17% of their cost of living adjustment for an employee plus child. One employee's COLA is 43% to cover the insurance cost increases. That is incredibly significant. $929.76 this year for them to maintain coverage for their family on this plan. I respectfully ask that you consider funding the increase, $61,419. I think this will go a long way towards benefiting our current employees, obviously, and funding the increase will help maintain the competitiveness of our benefit package and help with our goal of attracting qualified applicants. If our budgetary constraints are too significant to allow for this, I ask that you consider phasing it in, perhaps over 2 years, to minimize the effects on the employees. Thank you.
Anyone else from the audience? All right, I have some questions. Okay.
My name is Alice O'Connell. I go by Lori. I am Chief Hoagland's administrative assistant. I am the 30%. I am the parent with the child. I never had to do this or stand up in front of anybody before, but as Chief said, there's a face behind all of this, and I am the face of one. And 10.8% may not be much to you, but it's 1 month's mortgage payment. Or I can go on, break it down even more.
Can you give me a history of what the rate increases have been over the last few years?
Yes, sir. For 2025, the city made an additional, the contribution increased by the city for the employee portion there was no increase, but the employer portion increased nearly 15% for 2024. Sorry, 2025. So in 2025, January 1st, 2025, the city contribution increased almost 15%. The employee increase was $0. In 2024, the city increase went up, I'm going to say shockingly, 43%. And the employee portion went up 8%. In 2023, the employer portion went up 9.55%, and the employee portion went up 4.5%. And I'll add that there have been years that the committee has recommended to split a portion of the increase on the employee side, and that's where I think we saw that 4.5% was that there was a cost share there. I certainly would recommend that you fund the plan by the 10.8% so that when we do the report to the state insurance, that we are considered a sound plan. Being self-insured, we have to have an actuarial valuation each year, and then that report is submitted to the state, and then the state reviews the information and then provides a letter.
You're saying we need to make sure that we do the 10.8% increase for the city side to
at least a 10.8% overall.
Right.
All
whether
employee dependent.
however any cost sharing works
That's
or not.
correct.
Okay.
We're already operating at a loss of almost $40,000 as of the 10th of this month. There'll be claims to come in for several months now through the end of September. And I would strongly encourage you that you would need to at least fund that 10.8%. However it's funded, whether it's all employer or if there's a split, it needs to be funded.
Okay.
I did some calculations if you would like.
Okay.
For if the city were to split the increase with the employee, so that the employee increase would be 5.4% increase, it would cost an additional $19,399 to the city.
Okay. So the total dollar figure for the proposed 10.8% increase to staff is around 38,000. Is that what I'm understanding?
So, yes, it was
Okay.
an additional $38,797.
Okay. You guys have questions, comments, or thoughts?
Anything, John?
Hmm?
You got anything?
All right.
We did, the recommendation wasn't in there, but there was no change. There is still a base plan that is available free to the employee only.
That's what I wanted to
Yes.
reiterate, because I don't think that was.
Yes, there is a base
If
plan.
if an employee has the base plan, there would be no increase to that.
That's correct.
Because I think that kind of.
It's the dependent coverage.
Right, it's only the dependent, or if you have a premium plan.
If you have a premium
Or
plan.
if you're a retiree, we are no longer going to, the retiree will pay that whole thing. And we had some difficult conversations. I've been on this insurance committee probably for 25 at least years. And we've had some hard years. And this was very hard for us to decide to, pass along those increases like we did. But I think we have to look at all that for the city. So an employee does have the option to go to a base plan and not get hit with that increase. Depending on what council does.
But if they have dependent coverage, they're going to have an increase.
Right, but you have dependent coverage or retiree, but they do have, the employee themselves have that choice to go to a base plan and not be hit with a premium plan increase, but, insurance seems like every year it gets harder.
Gets more
when I've
difficult.
been on these plans, and we used to have, back in the day, we would have $1 million sitting in reserve. And then we go over, we had to start giving benefits to our insurance, to our employees for insurance because we had so much in reserve. That was a negative on the city because we had too much in reserve. So, there were years like that, but we've been hit really hard.
It's worth
So-
noting that in 2022, the city contributed on an annual basis $10,137 per employee. And in January 2026, it's going to have doubled to $20,251.56.
When I started here, our deductible was $500. So, I mean, it's just, it's the cost of everything, because we hated to bring that increase.
So I asked around a little bit today, just trying to figure out what other people are doing as far as what other insurance costs. In my own business, it's a different world entirely. On the private side, that my staff have to pay significantly higher. For some government, I talked to some people I know who work for the school, and it sounds like they're paying significantly or higher than we are for employee and dependent coverage. And I don't think there is a free base plan on the school side, from what I understand. Sounds like maybe at the county level they might pay a little bit less on that, but I think they're getting an increase too. I don't know that for a fact. I don't know. Oh, I'm tired of ruining people's nights. If I wasn't speaking to any of you, I would say we need to do the 10.8% because we're bleeding on insurance, and a cost of $20,000 per employee is staggeringly high. It's hard to say that when I understand that it's a real cost to people. I guess. Sure. Well, I have strong opinions about how COLAs work too, and hopefully maybe next year it'll be different. I would.
County and city. How is it that you may not know?
Could you come to the podium?
So this may be something you can or can't answer, but I have to ask it because I don't know who else to ask. And since I'm here, I'm going to. And you may know the answer, Mr. Swain. But we're getting a 4% COLA. The county's sworn personnel are getting a 10% COLA. What makes them so special over everybody else, whether it's a county or a city?
From what I understand, and I don't know if this is accurate, is that they got a grant to do that raise. I would also say I have no idea how their budgeting system works versus ours. It is a different world.
So is the city not allowed to go for grants?
We go for
If it
grants
was
all the time. I don't know that I don't know the details of that grant.
I need to ask.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish I knew how they were doing that and paying for it. That's the honest answer.
It'd be nice if they did annual raises for the grunts of the city.
Yes, ma'am.
Not the grunts. Cost of living is cost of living. Raises.
I agree.
I think it's just a very difficult thing too. Just municipalities and counties are so much different with how things are structured than well, I mean, it's two really different pools. There's a lot more money coming from the county.
Well, and I don't know that the county itself is giving a 10% increase.
It's just the sheriff's
That's the
department.
sheriff's contract with the sheriff's.
And everybody's trying to compete with
Request
each
for
other on
funds.
the coast and with Polk and Hardy and fighting uphill. I think we get hurt by a lot of these decisions.
So I'll just put it out there because I'm tired. I'm willing to split the cost.
Kathy, historically, what have we? I mean, in the 25 years that you've been doing that, is it it's just a toss up of what we do year to year?
See the history.
You know, back when they didn't have really a problem with it. We were very, very sound. I've been with me probably 30 years or so, but yeah, it was sound. We didn't have the kind of rates we're seeing. We didn't have the kind of, we just didn't.
And there was no change last year, like employee didn't have any increase last year.
I've already been the enemy once tonight, so I move to approve the insurance committee recommendations as presented.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Kathy, call the roll.
Bishop,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Wilcox,
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
I don't like it, but
All right. Moving on to item 12A.
12A is ordinance 1556. It's entitled an ordinance annexing approximately 27.15 acres of land located on Sunnyland Drive, Martin Luther King Boulevard, and Bossy Watson Avenue, in Government Lot 8, Section 20, Township 34, South Range 29, East Highlands County, Florida, into the city of Sebring, Florida, and establishing an effective date. This is the property the city just acquired from the defense.
Okay, any questions or comments from the audience on this one? Any from council? I'll entertain a motion.
motion to approve ordinance number 1556 on first reading and schedule second and final reading for the October 7th, 2025 meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Kathy, can you call the roll, please?
Yes.
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 Stewart.
Yes. All right, next up, item 13A, City Administrator's Report.
Good evening, council. I think the only thing that I'd want to ask or update you on in reference to this is something I added today, which was the Illinois pondweed on the lake. We're setting up a meeting to meet with a representative from FWC, hopefully for next week. And then we anticipate having to set up a workshop following that meeting. So at some point in the future, we'll be setting a workshop to discuss the Illinois pondweed, somewhat based upon our conversation with FWC next week. Do you have any questions about any other items on the report?
Could I ask that you add the RFP process? Update at each meeting, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay, anything else? Right, we're gonna move on to item 14A. Haley.
One thing, just so I don't forget before I do 14A, I just want to announce the final public hearing is tomorrow night, 5:15. Don't be late because you'll miss it.
I will not be here,
You will not be here.
so you might want to make sure, Mr. Carlisle.
We only need a 3.
You only need 3, so you're good.
I just want to make sure I didn't forget to say. Okay, council needs to put a paying the bills, please.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and second. Call the roll.
Bishop.
Yes.
Haver.
Yes.
Wilcox.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
And then my last thing is, there is a vacancy on the CRA board, that will come September 30th, 2025. And it's been posted on the city's webpage. To be a member of this board, you must reside in the city limits or be engaged in a business within the city limits as a business owner or employed by the business full-time. This will be for a full 4-year term. I'm sorry to say. Thank you. Vacancy will be posted until filled, so there's no deadline. So I was like to mention that because people say, "Oh, I just saw it and it's already filled," so it can be filled very quickly. So
In theory, though, the term ends at the end of this month.
the term ends for this one person at the end of September 30th, but these terms are for 4 years, which is a little bit different than ours.
This meeting is adjourned.
Can you stay a little longer?
Do you want to?